If you're struggling to lose weight or just find creative recipes, no worries, I've got you. Today, I'm gonna go over my top 3 meals that I consumed while going on a cut that helped me lose roughly 15 pounds in just 90 days. Let's get to it. Meal number 1 is one of my favorite meals of the day, and that's gonna be breakfast. For breakfast, I do oatmeal and Greek yogurt essentially every morning. This meal is super simple, only takes about 5 minutes to get ready, and even if you're not a big breakfast person, it goes down very well. For this meal, all you're gonna need is about 40 grams of old-fashioned oats with 80 milliliters roughly of unsweetened almond milk, 1 cup of some Greek yogurt. I use the Oikos 000 yogurt. This keeps the calories lower, protein high, and it tastes great. And when making this, I used 158 grams of strawberries, 52 grams of blackberries, and 52 grams of blueberries. As you can see, this is a very fruit-rich meal, which is gonna help with some healthy fibers getting added in first thing in the morning. And of course, because there are a lot of berries here, we're also gonna be increasing the amount of micronutrients that you're getting in first thing. If you're like me, you'll probably need some carbs to restore glycogen if you work out in the morning or you run in the morning. And of course, we'll have the Greek yogurt to include a little bit of protein in our diet first thing in the morning. Overall, this meal will have more than 20 grams of protein, which is pretty good first thing in the morning. And of course, it'll be very satiating because of all the fruits, as well as the protein. That really helps out a lot. And of course, the fiber as well. Fiber is a great tool if you're trying to lose weight because it'll help you feel fuller for a longer period of time. Of course, you can adjust the fruits however you prefer if you don't like blueberries, blackberries, or strawberries. However, I do recommend all 3 of these berries first thing in the morning. I think they're great. It's an awesome way to start the morning, and they're very micronutrient dense. I would personally stay away from things like bananas first thing in the morning, unless you're cutting out the oats, but this meal is very customizable and you can kind of fit it to however you want. My only issue with banana, even though I eat them pretty regularly, is the fact that typically they're a little bit higher in calories. So if you're trying to cut or lose weight and that's your goal, just keep that in mind. Of course, you can still eat them. However, you have to consider those calories and make sure that that's not getting in the way of your progress. Also keep in mind you can, get rid of the oats altogether if you are somebody that is on a very low calorie count because you tend to be on the smaller side. So you can get rid of the oats and you can go ahead and just replace that with Greek yogurt. That'll also add more protein as well. Sometimes it's nice to have a couple of servings of Greek yogurt as opposed to the, carb heavy oats. And if you don't eat breakfast first thing in the morning, you can kind of just make that replacement. But in my opinion, personally, this meal is enhanced with the oats. Kind of just adds a different texture and really makes me personally feel full just to start the day. But once again, and I can't stress this enough, we want to make sure that these meals are, easy to adjust, as is the convenience of each meal, and of course, just the overall taste and value. You want to feel like you're not on a diet. And one meal that makes me feel like I'm definitely not on a diet is meal number 2, the sushi bowl. Sushi bowls kind of remind me of being back at home whenever I used to go to the beach with Hannah, my wife, and we would go visit her aunt. We would get poke bowls, and this is kind of a similar concept, but it's very makeshift. For this sushi bowl, we're gonna want 6 ounces of rice, 4 ounces of shrimp, about 40 grams of cucumber, about 20 grams of carrots, about 20 grams of red onion. I've also included 75 grams of kimchi and 40 grams of edamame, give or take. This meal is one of my favorites as well. It's something that I've gone to a bunch of different times, and if you go back into my full days of eating, you'll see some variation of these sushi bowls. Of course, I do replace different, aspects of this, whether it's the protein, maybe I'll do chicken or even ground beef, although that's a little bit more rare. I don't typically do ground beef with these, but definitely chicken for this meal as opposed to something like shrimp. You can also do salmon if you want to as well. Pretty much anything though will be a good replacement because this is once again a very makeshift meal similar to meal number 1. And if you really wanted to make different adjustments, you could add some avocado. You could also get rid of different aspects like carrots or the kimchi. I know that's not everyone's flavor, but for me personally, it really enhances the meal. And of course, once you get rid of something like kimchi, you can also include some different things like sauces that are lower calorie. We can use different aminos or just some low sodium soy sauce to include with the meal to make sure that we've got a little bit more moisture and we're making the meals a little bit more enjoyable. And once again, this is a relatively flexible meal. While this does take a little bit longer to cook because of the rice, it's not quite 5 minutes like meal number one. It's definitely flexible, and fortunately you can kind of piece it together while the rice is cooking. You can easily chop up your vegetables, get out your sauces, and cook your proteins in the time it takes for that rice to cook, and you'll have a great and, once again, delicious meal to fall back on. This meal is going to be very high in protein because of the vegetables, very high in micronutrients, assuming that you are using all of the vegetables that I've mentioned here, and you can add even more with something like an avocado. In my opinion, this is an easy slept-on meal, and you can pretty much use leftovers from the night before to kind of throw this together. For example, if you're like me and you meal prep things like chicken and rice on Sunday, on Monday, when you're busy and you kind of have a lot more going on, you're really just trying to get it together for the beginning of the week, have a little bit of that leftover rice from meal prep the day before, as well as the leftover chicken from the day before, and you pretty much can throw yourself together a simple meal. And you can always buy the shrimp frozen, which definitely helps in terms of flexibility because the shrimp will last longer, so there's not as much of a rush to cook that. However, there is one gaping hole here. If you are like me and you do get sick of consuming the same carbs day in and day out, meal number 3 is a great one. And meal number 3 being a loaded potato with buffalo chicken. This meal is incredibly simple in terms of its ingredients. It is simply 4 ounces of chicken. I have about 160 grams of potatoes, about 137 grams of broccoli, 28 grams of cheese, and to top this off, we have some Primal Kitchen buffalo sauce, which goes great with the chicken. You can mix it in on the chicken as well, but I kind of just drizzled it on top here because I kind of like it to be a part of everything. I only used about 10 grams here, but you can use a little bit more if you want to. And in my opinion, it's one of the most flavorful sauces that's relatively low calorie that you can add to a meal like this. Of course, you can add different fixings if you want. Again, avocado goes great with this. You can replace the white potato with something like a sweet potato and get a little bit more micronutrients. You could even add some variation of bacon on top of this, dice it up, chop it up, whatever, and kind of just sprinkle it on top to add a little bit of a crunch. There's a lot of different variations of this meal that are great. And while we did shape these into fries by, just soaking them in cold water, drying them off and putting them into the air fryer, you can dice them. You can just make a regular potato. It doesn't matter. The variation is pretty much the same. It's kind of up to you how you want to prepare it, but we did fries in this instance. And once again, this is a very simple meal. You can cook the potatoes typically at about 400 degrees, and we'll do that for about 30 minutes to get a nice crisp to them. While those are cooking, you can easily get your fixings together, which could be, the cheese, the avocado, the vegetables, whatever you want to do, your sauces, and then about 10 minutes before the potatoes are done, you can start cooking your proteins, so that way it's nice and hot and fresh. And once again, we've got a nice high protein meal. We've got some complex carbs with a lot of micronutrients. We'll have some fats from the cheese as well as some calcium. And overall, it's just a well-rounded, tasty meal. And that's super important to have that flexibility with all of these meals because you want to make sure that you're able to add a little bit of variety. I've had a number of times where I've had people say that they can't meal prep or they can't eat the same things over and over again. But the reality is, my meals essentially adjust depending on how I'm feeling. While my meal prep might be very similar day in and day out, I can adjust that on a weekly basis. And while dinners are typically a variety of the same thing, you can kind of make those slight tweaks. After all, Taco Bell's made an entire business model of doing this exact same thing. For real, look at their menu. All of the ingredients are the same in every single one of their meals. Anyways, having that variability definitely matters. Have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to your meals. different sauces, different vegetables, things that you think might spice up the meal a little bit. You can add things and you can take them out. And at the end of the day, it's really gonna make dieting feel easy. Besides all of these meals being easy to adjust, I wanted to make sure that none of them took more than 30 minutes to prep. And overall, I think I accomplished that here. It's super simple, super easy. You can even cook the potatoes in that last meal, take care of things around the house for the next 20 minutes if you needed to, and pull everything together in the last 10 minutes while those potatoes are cooking. That's important for me personally because life does not stop whenever I am cutting, doesn't stop when I'm bulking, doesn't stop whenever I have different goals in mind. At the end of the day, I have things going on in my life that I have to take care of, and even the simpler, smaller things like doing the dishes or, folding laundry can be done right after getting the potatoes into the air fryer. It allows me to be way more efficient and kind of take care of my business and then still prioritize all of my nutrition as well as, my meals, staying healthy, staying high protein, and really getting in good quality foods. Obviously, if you are trying to lose weight, the most important aspect is going to be a calorie deficit. That's not lost on me. And I want to make sure that you all understand that you can adjust the macros and the calories here as you prefer. So hopefully this helps and provides a good foundation next time you're trying to prep for your dinners next week. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. And of course, until next time, keep it together.